Konami has released the Quarter Century Bonanza, and we have gone through their blitzkrieg of reprints and picked out the top 10 cards that you should be picking up from the Quarter Century Bonanza. And starting off on today's list is Konami's #1 fan service card, and that is Dark Magician Girl. And now we've seen recently Konami has been milking the Dark Magician Girl reprints as putting them all as Quarter Century rare, and the players are eating it up. And even though all the artworks are nice, the artwork with the circle behind it labeled B on TCG Player is the most sought after version out of the Quarter Century Bonanza. And that is because when you look at the other versions, they have a ton of reprints in that artwork, but then when we're looking at the version B, it only has one other copy, and aside from that, it's Bonanza. So to the fans and collectors of Dark Magician Girl, this is definitely a version you want to add to your collection while they're flooding the market. And now the second, and possibly, in my opinion, one of the most sought after cards out of the entire Bonanza collection is Gravekeeper Spy. And that is because not only is Spy playable in the Edison format, but a staple in all of the GOAT format decks as well. And now previously, before the Bonanza reprint, we have seen that every version of Spy has spiked in price, and that is why that this is a very prime reprint choice by Konami, and players are going crazy. So whether you're a GOAT player, an Edison player, or just a fan of Gravekeepers in general, now is the time to pick up your blinged out playsets of Gravekeeper Spy, because once Bonanza is out of cycle, it will be quite some time, if ever, that Konami goes back around and gives these a holographic treatment. But blinking into the current metagame, one of the best staples most players are excited about is none other than SP Little Knight. And that is because ever since its release, and even its announcement, SP Little Knight has been warping the metagame and has been a mainstay in almost every meta deck, sometimes even at 2. And that is why whenever SP Little Knight was announced for the Bonanza reprint, on top of the Megaton reprint, which honestly a lot of players were not too happy about that, this was Konami's kind of redeeming factor of the year, because once players realized that cards like SP Little Knight were in the Bonanza and not just a bunch of reprints for Edison and GOAT, a lot of the newer meta players were like, okay, I'm dumping into this product now. So SP Little Knight is an easy #3 on today's top 10 list. And now going back to you Edison fans out there, this is definitely a fan favorite, and that is Elemental Hero Neos Alias. And now if you were wanting to pick up a Neos Alias before now, you had the really expensive Ultimate Rare or some really not so nice looking supers, okay? Now you have blinged out Quarter Century secrets, Platinum secrets, all sorts of options for Neos Alias. So to the Edison players, the Hero Beat players, the Big City 2s, it doesn't even matter. Now is the perfect time to be picking up your playsets of blinged out Neos Alias, much like Gravekeeper Spy. And that is because once this set cycles through, you're not going to be seeing blinged out versions of this card for quite some time, if ever. And now following suit with that exact sentiment, we have none other than Dimension Fusion. And now, this was an amazing staple in the GOAT format, and up until now, saw kind of reprint with the Invasion of Chaos reprint set, but honestly, all the prices across the board for this card were sky high, and that is why a ton of GOAT players right now have been rejoicing, because they can get affordable versions of this card and don't have to pay through the nose just to compete in a, well, going to be like 20 years eventually here. So to the GOAT players out there, much like a lot of these older cards, now is the time to be picking up your versions of Dimension Fusion. All right. Now for the meta players out there, the next cards are for you. And now starting off with Triple Tactics Thrust. This is an amazing inclusion into the Bonanza set. And yes, we've had a few reprints up until now of this card, but they really were not fitting inside the budget that a lot of players have, especially for decks that are not tier 1. And I'm really excited about this card as well, because in a lot of decks I debut here, like the Nurse Burn deck, we do include things like Thrust, and it makes the deck that much better. And I really like to make sure that budget players are able to play the decks that we debut. So Triple Tactic Thrust is a must in the top 10 for Bonanza. And now we have to mention the card that has been heating up the metagame, and that is, of course, Heat Wave. Now, with the Tempais going crazy, and we saw the rares and even the commons of this card spiking beyond belief in price, it is only fair that we see an inclusion of Heatwave in the Bonanza collection. And now for the players out there that want to pick up any version of it you want, whether that's Quarter Century, the collector rares, or even the ultimate rares, now is definitely the time, because it's going to be a long time from now before these cards cool off. And if you've been checking out some of the other videos such as the Primite Runic deck, you'll know that Heatwave is a must-have in that deck, and definitely the time for you to be picking it up. But switching over to a card that sometimes sees its time in the meta, and then players will want it banned, is Eradicator Epidemic Virus. And now I know, as of now, we've not been seeing the virus being played as often as we saw just a year ago, and that is why Eradicator Epidemic Virus is definitely a card that a lot of players need to have their eye on and be picking up for the future meta game before it cycles its way back in. And now potentially the most sought after card in the entire Bonanza, and the card we cannot forget about, is Caius the Shadow Monarch. And this is probably the best card that they could have included in this set, and that is because for the Edison players out there, if they wanted to play a blinged out Caius, you had to either overpay on a structure deck, probably damaged copy, or you're paying out the nose for a Turbo Pack Ultimate Rare. And now while some players are digging for SP Little Knight or Triple Tactics Thrust, it is going to be striking gold for those that are pulling the Quarter Century Secret Rare versions of Caius the Shadow Monarch. And it is the inclusion of cards like Caius, SP Little Knight, and Thrust of why the Bonanza is potentially the most sought after reprint set of 2024. And now finishing our top 10 list, we have to go with the card that is potentially going to be unbanned in the future, and that is Heavy Storm. So, to the players out there that have not been picking up their copies of Heavy Storm, I guess good for you, because now you can pick up any blinged out copy that you want. And the Quarter Century Secret Rare is definitely going to be the sought after version for quite some time. So to the players out there that are prepping for the future formats, or just want to have a blinged out version of this staple, now is definitely the time to be picking it up, because once it is unbanned, the price is going to go through the roof. And now before we get into the notable mentions, if I have missed anything you think should be in the top 10, comment down below. But speeding through the notable mentions, we have the water support, whether that be the Deep Sea Diva or the Totally Awesome. With potential frog support right around the corner, these two cards will be seeing a spike in the near future, so for the water lovers out there, definitely pick these up. And the next notable mention card is Phosphodyna, and now this is a fan favorite card from the past and is even applicable in decks like Runic Stun. So definitely be on the lookout for this card being hyped up in the current metagame. And now to finish full circle, the last card on our notable mentions is Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. And now this card is a fan favorite collectible card, and now that it is in Quarter Century Secret Rare, it is going to be included in a bunch of players' collections, including those collecting Dark Magician Girl. So to those interested in these types of cards, definitely go pick them up before they're out of circulation. And now guys, that is the top 10 cards that you should be picking up out of the Quarter Century Bonanza. And if you're looking for other top cards to be picking up before they spike, definitely check out our top 10 cards to be picking up of Rage of the Abyss. But guys, make sure to like the video, and most importantly, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.